The blue light of the monitor cut through the darkness of the apartment. 2 a.m. Olivia Bennett sat motionless, her hand resting on the mouse. She stared at the screen, where her latest post on digital branding sat stagnant. Trapped at 42 views. Outside, the city was dead silent. But in her head, the pressure of 1,000 viral trends screamed for attention. She deleted the draft. The cursor blinked in the empty space, a rhythmic demand for something better. She reached for the dog-eared book on her desk, the paper soft from years of handling. She flipped to the marked page, her thumb pressing hard against the ink. Success comes from creating value before seeking rewards. She read it twice. The desperation to chase follower counts, to feed the algorithm for fleeting spikes, suddenly felt hollow. She pushed the keyboard aside and opened a clean, blank page. She stopped looking at the view count. She stopped looking at the clock. She began to write, not for the masses, but for the specific, nagging problems she had heard that morning. The decision was made. If the world would not notice her, she would stop asking it to, and start giving it a reason to stay. She broke the landing page optimization into 3 distinct steps. No fluff, no marketing jargon, just the raw, technical fixes she had discussed with her client that morning. She typed until the sun began to bleed gray light through the window blinds. She hit publish and closed the laptop. The view count did not jump. There was no notification surge. By noon, the number remained stubbornly small. She spent the afternoon working on other projects, ignoring the tabs she had kept pinned in her browser. It was late evening when the notification chime finally broke the silence. A stranger had left a comment. It was not a generic thumbs up. It was 3 sentences explaining how her guide had just saved him hours of labor on his own site. Olivia leaned back, the tension in her shoulders easing. She did not just reply with a thank you. She sent him a link to a small, free tool she had built to automate the very process she had described. It was a simple exchange. One person helped, one problem solved. She watched the cursor blink, realizing this was the first brick in a foundation that did not rely on the algorithm to stand. The rhythm of that first success became the pulse of her life. Days bled into months. The calendar pages turned, but the routine remained fixed. Every evening, the glow of the screen became her primary workspace. She stopped recording for the sake of mass appeal. Instead, she broke down complex technical hurdles into bite-sized tutorials, uploading them with the precision of a surgeon. She did not hunt for likes. She hunted for questions. When the comments section grew, she did not outsource the replies. She sat at her desk, typing out detailed, personalized answers to every single query. Some nights, she spent hours explaining a single line of code to a struggling beginner. Other nights, she drafted guides that clarified marketing metrics for small business owners. She was building a library of solutions. The fatigue was constant, but it was a different kind of exhaustion, the kind that comes from hard, tangible labor rather than the anxiety of waiting for a digital surge. She noticed that the nature of the engagement was changing. People stopped asking for her opinion. They started asking for her expertise. She was no longer just a voice in the void. She was a professional. She was a resource. She was a reputation, built one comment at a time. The world outside her screen remained quiet, but inside her workflow, the gears were grinding into a precise, high-speed configuration. Olivia stopped writing content for the sake of output. She began treating her own processes as a laboratory. If a reader struggled with a concept, she did not just rewrite the post, she redesigned the entire framework. She spent weeks mastering technical tools she had previously only touched on, pushing her own limits to ensure that when a question came, she had an answer that was not just correct, but industry-leading. Her communication grew sharper, cutting away the fluff until only the essential action remained. She mapped the pain points of every industry she touched, building an internal database of solutions that no algorithm could replicate. She was refining her craft in total isolation, sharpening the blade while the digital crowd chased fleeting trends. Her confidence was no longer a hope. It was a calibrated certainty. Every tutorial she recorded was now a masterclass in efficiency. Every email she sent was a demonstration of authority. The foundation was set. The trust was banked. She was no longer just waiting for an opportunity. She was effectively waiting for the world to catch up to the standard she had already built. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The laptop sat open, the cursor blinking in a rhythm that had become second nature. Then, the chime broke the silence. A notification banner slid down. It was an email from a retail startup she had never spoken to. She hovered the cursor over the subject line. The sender had been following her content for 6 months. They had analyzed every tutorial, every answer, every solution she had posted. They wanted her. The offer was specific, a high-level consulting project to overhaul their entire conversion strategy. The fee listed in the attachment was exactly double her current monthly salary. She read the number twice. The silence in the room suddenly felt heavy, charged with the shift from volunteer effort to professional demand. This was no longer a hobby. This was the market validating her years of isolated labor. Her pulse quickened. The pressure was immediate. She was not just answering questions in a comments section anymore. She was responsible for the bottom line of a business. She leaned back, staring at the screen. The offer was a test of everything she had built. She hit reply. She accepted. The transition from creator to consultant was sealed in a single keystroke. The project began with a mountain of disorganized data. The retail startup was losing half their traffic at the final checkout screen, and their internal team was at a standstill. Olivia spent the first 48 hours mapping every touchpoint of their funnel. She found the leak, a redundant verification step that frustrated mobile users. When she presented the fix, the stakeholders were skeptical. She implemented the change on a subdomain as a live test. Within 3 hours, conversion rates spiked by 15%. The project went from a consulting gig to a rescue mission. She worked through the night, automating the reporting and tightening the copy, turning their chaotic sales process into a precise engine. The result was undeniable. When the contract period ended, the startup did not just pay her, they sent her name to their entire venture capital network. A CEO from an e-commerce firm called the next morning. Then a founder from a logistics tech company followed. The momentum was no longer linear. Every task she completed now acted as a catalyst, pulling in more complex problems and more significant opportunities. She was no longer hunting for work. The work was now finding her, arriving in a steady, relentless stream of high-level inquiries. The inbox overflowed by the end of the month. Olivia hit a physical wall. She could only consult for one client at a time, yet the demand for her framework was exponential. She spent 3 weeks recording every logic step of her strategy into a structured masterclass. The course allowed her to share her methodology without trading hours for dollars. With that foundation, she took the next step. She hired a junior analyst to manage the data audits, then a copywriter to handle the landing page drafts. The consulting practice officially became an agency. She moved from manual troubleshooting to high-level strategy design. The transition was rapid and brutal. She stopped answering individual emails and started managing project workflows. The transition required her to trust her own systems over her own hands. She built a dashboard to track the agency output, ensuring every client project met the same standard she had once maintained alone. It was no longer about her personal output. It was about the output of the machine she had built. The revenue stream diversified, flowing from course enrollments and recurring agency retainers. She had successfully decoupled her income from her waking hours. The agency was born. The home office no longer contained the operation. Olivia packed her files into boxes, leaving behind the cramped desk that had served as her launchpad for years. She secured a lease on a downtown suite, a space defined by glass walls and open floor plans. The move was logistical warfare. She coordinated the installation of high-speed servers, ergonomic workstations for her growing team, and a central conference room for client briefings. Her team expanded from 1 to 20. She spent her mornings walking the floor, reviewing project tickets on digital tablets, and conducting rapid-fire status meetings with her lead analysts. The silence of her apartment was replaced by the constant, low-frequency hum of a productive office. Phones rang. Keyboards clicked in unison. She held the master schedule for every active project, moving from one department to the next to troubleshoot bottlenecks in real time. She no longer sat for hours at a single screen. She moved between desks, reviewing creative assets and technical reports. The downtown suite became the heartbeat of her business. She established a rhythm: brief, intense meetings at the start of the day, followed by focused, deep work in her private office, and collaborative reviews in the afternoon. The transition was complete. She stood in the center of the office, monitoring the collective output of her team, and confirmed the infrastructure was ready for the next phase. Olivia sat at her mahogany desk and tapped the keyboard to call up the agency financial dashboard. A row of green indicators blinked across the screen, tracking quarterly growth against projected targets. She watched the cursor hover over the primary account summary. The total net worth crossed the seven-figure mark. She did not lean back or celebrate. She did not call anyone. She simply watched the digits stabilize. This was not a surprise or a lucky break. It was the mathematical culmination of every tutorial she had recorded, every client problem she had solved, and every system she had refined over the years. She pulled up the historical records, scrolling back to the early months when her revenue was measured in tens of dollars. She compared the growth trajectory of that time to the current velocity of her agency. The pattern was identical. She closed the dashboard and minimized the window, returning the screen to her pending task list. The money was a signal, a proof of concept for the value she had delivered to her clients. It was the shadow cast by the work itself. She reached for her phone to draft her next post, focusing on the next individual problem she needed to solve. The growth was consistent. The process remained unchanged. Olivia turned her chair, facing the young creator who sat across from her. The creator tapped a pen against a notebook, eyes fixed on the empty charts on the wall. "How many followers for $1 million?" the creator asked. Olivia set her coffee mug down on the mahogany surface. She leaned forward, the movement slow and deliberate. "You have the math backwards," she said. She gestured toward the screen. "The algorithm is a tool, not a bank. You do not need more followers. You need more trust." The creator blinked, pen hovering over the page. Olivia stood up and walked to the window, the city skyline reflected in the glass. She thought back to the nights with 42 views, the silence, and the persistence required to solve one problem at a time. She turned back to the desk. "The money did not come from the algorithm. It came from the problems I solved for the people who needed them." The creator wrote the words down, the scratching of the pen the only sound in the room. Olivia picked up her phone. She did not check her metrics. She opened her notes to draft the next post. One lesson, one person, one opportunity. She began to type, the cycle continuing exactly as it had from the very first day. The fortune was simply the shadow cast by the value she had built.